Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories you won't want to miss. Now, let's dive into the tale of She Married for Love, then learned he was richer than she ever dreamed. It was a crisp autumn morning when Clara Matthews walked along the cobblestone streets of Willowbrook, the little town where she had grown up. The air carried the faint scent of fallen leaves mixed with the distant aroma of fresh bread from the bakery around the corner. She tugged her wool scarf tighter around her neck and glanced at the quaint little shops that lined Main Street. She had always loved the charm of her hometown, the way everyone knew your name, and every corner held memory. Clara was late. Though she had promised herself she'd be on time, her mind wandered, as it often did these days, to Daniel Hartman, her husband. Daniel was charming, kind, and he had swept her off her feet in a whirlwind of laughter, late-night talks, and quiet moments that felt sacred. She smiled to herself, remembering how he had knelt down in the middle of the town square one rainy evening, holding out a small velvet box and asking her to marry him. It had been romantic beyond anything she had ever imagined. She had said yes before her heart even had time to think. But today was different. Today, Clara wasn't just walking to the coffee shop to meet a friend. She was on her way to sort through some old letters in her grandmother's attic. Her grandmother, Evelyn, had passed away only a few months ago, and in the weeks since, Clara had been sifting through memories, old photographs, and letters. There had always been something about Evelyn's handwriting, gentle, flowing, yet precise, that made each word feel alive. As Clara reached the small, ivy-covered house at the edge of town, she noticed a letter sticking out from under the old mailbox. The envelope was creamy white, thick and elegant, with her name written in careful cursive. She frowned slightly, confused. She didn't recognize the handwriting. Carefully, she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly, with words that made her heart skip. Clara, there are truths you need to know. Some things about Daniel cannot be revealed lightly, but the time has come. Follow the instructions in this letter. Trust no one but yourself. Clara's hands trembled as she read. Her eyes darted to the bottom of the page. There was an address, a time, and a single instruction, come alone. She stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing. Should I go? Who sent this? What could it possibly mean? She thought of Daniel. He was waiting for her, probably thinking she was still at home organizing the attic. She shook her head. He wouldn't lie to me. Would he? By the time Clara arrived at the address, the sun was just beginning its descent, casting long golden shadows across the cobblestones. The house before her was grand, far larger than any she had seen in Willowbrook, with ivy crawling up its stone walls and tall windows that reflected the fading light. A subtle chill ran down her spine, not from fear, but from the weight of anticipation. She pushed open the wrought iron gate, and it creaked softly, announcing her arrival. Her footsteps echoed on the marble pathway leading to the massive front door. Clara took a deep breath, recalling the letter's instructions. Trust no one but yourself. She knocked. The door swung open almost immediately. Inside was a room filled with warmth, wooden beams, soft lighting, and a fireplace that crackled invitingly. And then she saw him. Clara, said a voice that made her heart leap. It wasn't Daniel's voice, though it was familiar in tone. It was older, more resonant, and carried authority. She turned slowly to see a man in a tailored suit, his eyes sharp but not unkind. You're Daniel's wife? He asked, and she nodded, words caught in her throat. Good. We need to talk about things you don't know about him, about your life together. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. What do you mean? She asked cautiously, taking a small step forward. He gestured for her to sit at a polished oak table in the center of the room. As she did, he pulled out a folder thick with papers, photographs, and official-looking documents. Everything Daniel has ever told you about his life. It's only part of the story, he began. He has kept certain truths hidden, not out of malice, but because he wanted to protect you. Clara's mind raced. Protect me from what? she asked. From inside the folder, the man slid out a series of photographs. One showed Daniel as a young man, standing proudly in front of a massive building she had never seen before. Another was a certificate of ownership. Shares, properties, businesses, everything that screamed immense wealth. Clara's breath caught in her throat. He's richer than anyone could imagine, the man said quietly. And there are responsibilities, legacies, and secrets that come with it. All of this was meant to be revealed to you when the time was right. The truth is the time is now. Clara sat back, stunned. Her hand shook slightly. Daniel had never mentioned any of this. She remembered their humble apartment, the quiet dinners, the small gestures of love. She remembered thinking that he had a modest, simple life. And yet here she was, staring at evidence that he was far beyond anything she had dreamed of. "What does this mean for us?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It means choices," the man replied. "Choices you will need to make together. There will be people who wish to manipulate, to control, to take advantage. But you and Daniel, you have the power to decide how this wealth, this life, is used. Together." Clara's mind spun. I don't know what to say. I mean, I married him for love, not money." The man smiled faintly. "And that's exactly why he chose you. He knew that wealth without trust, without love, is meaningless. What you decide next will shape everything, not just for you, but for everyone connected to him." Clara nodded slowly, tried to absorb it all. As the sky outside turned shades of amber and rose, she felt a mix of fear, excitement, and awe. Her life had changed in ways she could not have imagined, and she knew that the road ahead would test every part of her heart. Then the door creaked, and a familiar voice called softly from the hallway. "Clara, are you here?" It was Daniel, and when she saw him, she felt the same warmth, the same love that had drawn her to him from the very start. But now, everything was different. Every smile, every glance, every shared moment carried a deeper meaning, a heavier weight of truth. She took a deep breath, looking at the man across the table, then back at Daniel. "I guess we have a lot to talk about," she said, a mixture of wonder and resolve in her voice. Daniel stepped into the room fully, wrapping her in a protective, familiar embrace. "Whatever it is," he said, "we'll face it together." And in that moment, Clara realized that love, true love, was never about wealth. It was about trust, choices, and the courage to face life's surprises together. But as she glanced again at the folder on the table, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Secrets, challenges, and surprises lay ahead, and she knew that her story, and Daniel's, was far from over. The next morning, Willowbrook awoke to a pale, golden sun casting its warmth over the rooftops, but Clara's mind was far from peaceful. The revelation from last night weighed heavily on her, a mixture of awe, fear, and curiosity spinning inside her. Daniel had returned home late, exhausted from a series of mysterious calls and meetings she didn't yet understand. Yet he greeted her with the same gentle smile that had first drawn her in months ago. "Morning," Daniel said, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. "Did you sleep at all?" Clara shook her head, wrapping her arms around herself. "Not really. I keep thinking about everything, about last night." He nodded slowly, concern in his eyes. "I know. I wanted to tell you sooner, but timing, well, it's never easy. And it's complicated. You'll understand more soon. I promise." She looked at him, trying to read his expression. There was truth in his eyes, yes, but also something he wasn't saying. "Complicated how?" she asked softly. Daniel sighed and pulled out a chair, gesturing for her to sit across from him at their small breakfast table. "It's about my family, my inheritance, and what it means for us. You married me for love, Clara, and that's all that matters. But the people around me, the decisions they've made, the expectations placed on me, it's a lot more than I can explain in one morning." Clara bit her lip, trying to process. So, I'm married to a billionaire, and I had no idea. Daniel chuckled softly, though there was a tension beneath it. You had no idea, and that's exactly how it was meant to be. I wanted you to fall in love with me, not my bank account. Her heart swelled. That she could understand. That she could trust. But questions kept coming. Then, why the secret folder? Who was that man, and why did he give me all that information? Daniel leaned back, his expression turning somber. His name is Mr. Donovan. Well, let's say he's been my guardian in business matters. He knows things about my family and our holdings that I haven't fully told anyone. He wanted to prepare you, make sure you were ready for what comes next. Clara's mind raced. She remembered the photographs, the documents, the sheer scale of what she had seen. Ready for what exactly? He took her hands in his, eyes locking onto hers. For the world that comes with being part of this life. The businesses, the responsibilities, the people who will try to influence us or test us. And there's more than that. Her stomach fluttered, equal parts excitement and fear. More than that, Daniel, he silenced her gently. Clara, I know it's a lot, but the truth is there's someone from my past you haven't met yet. Someone who might change everything if we're not careful. Her eyes widened. Someone from your past? He nodded. Yes, and I want you to meet them when the time is right. But for now, we focus on us and what we do together. Can we do that? Clara nodded, though a knot of worry twisted in her stomach. Together, she repeated. Over the next few days, Clara tried to maintain a sense of normalcy. She returned to her favorite cafe, chatted with friends, and even helped Daniel sort through some of his personal correspondence. But everywhere she looked, reminders of last night's revelation followed. She found herself imagining hidden rooms, secret meetings, and the weight of unimaginable wealth pressing down on her quiet, peaceful life. One afternoon, Daniel came home carrying a large envelope, similar to the ones Clara had found at her grandmother's attic. This came for you, he said, placing it gently on the counter. Clara's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was an invitation, embossed with gold lettering. You are cordially invited to the Hartman Gala. Attendance is mandatory for Mrs. Clara Hartman. She blinked, unsure how to respond. Mandatory? She asked, holding it up. This feels extravagant. I don't know if I'm ready for all of this. Daniel smiled reassuringly. It's just one evening. Think of it as an introduction. People you'll need to know, connections that matter, nothing more. Clara sighed. Connections that matter, huh? That's a nice way of saying I'm being thrust into a completely new world overnight. He laughed, pulling her into a hug. And you'll be wonderful. Trust me. The evening of the gala arrived, and Clara stepped into a world she had only glimpsed in movies. The grand hall sparkled with crystal chandeliers, velvet drapes, and guests dressed in their finest attire. She felt slightly out of place, a maid's daughter among socialites and business magnates. Daniel guided her through the crowd, introducing her to people she couldn't even begin to remember. But he remained by her side, his presence steady and grounding. She's amazing, whispered a man in a tailored suit as they passed. Daniel glanced at him, raising an eyebrow, but saying nothing. Clara, oblivious to the comment, focused on keeping her composure. At one point, a woman approached them, elegant and poised. Daniel, it's been so long, she said warmly, extending her hand to Clara. And you must be the famous Clara I've heard so much about. It's a pleasure. Clara shook her hand, trying to hide her nervousness. The pleasure is mine, she said politely. Daniel leaned closer to her ear. This is Margaret Sinclair. She's one of the board members who's helped me navigate some tricky investments. She's influential. Clara nodded, taking mental notes. Every handshake, every smile, every conversation seemed to carry hidden meaning. This world was intoxicating, yet overwhelming. Later that evening, as the gala began to wind down, Daniel took Clara outside to the terrace. The night air was cool and fragrant with roses from nearby gardens. The city lights twinkled below, and for a moment, everything felt calm. "You did wonderfully tonight," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I know it's not easy being thrown into this life, but you handled it perfectly." Clara smiled, leaning into him. "I don't know if perfect is the word I'd use. Overwhelmed, maybe, but I'm glad I have you." Daniel took her hand, entwining their fingers. "And I have you. That's all that matters. No gala, no fortune, no expectations can change that." They stood in silence for a moment, the stars above them bearing witness to their quiet resolve. Clara felt a sense of belonging she hadn't anticipated. She wasn't just a visitor in this world. She was a part of it, and she would face whatever came next alongside Daniel. But just as they turned to go back inside, a shadow moved across the terrace. Clara's eyes widened. "Daniel, did you see that?" He followed her gaze, frowning. "See what?" A figure disappeared behind a corner of the terrace, someone tall and unidentifiable. Daniel's expression darkened. Clara, when not alone in this, not for a second. Her pulse quickened, but she didn't let go of his hand. Whatever secrets, challenges, or surprises awaited, she knew one thing for certain. Together, they could face anything, and that, she realized, was only the beginning. The days after the gala were a whirlwind. Clara and Daniel returned to their quiet mornings, but the shadow she had seen lingered in her mind. Who had been there on the terrace? And why? Daniel seemed unshaken, though his jaw was tight, a subtle tension in his shoulders he couldn't hide. "Clara," he said one evening as they sat in their cozy living room, "there's something I need to tell you about the figure on the terrace and why I haven't mentioned it before." Clara leaned forward, hands clasped tightly. "Go on." Daniel took a deep breath. "That was my cousin, Victor. He's complicated, ambitious, very sharp, and sometimes difficult to trust. He has his own ideas about the family business and the life we're building. I wanted to prepare you for him, but I didn't want to frighten you." Clara's eyebrows knit together. "Frighten me?" "Yes," Daniel said gently. "Victor has a way of pushing people, testing loyalty, and making situations uncomfortable. But I trust him, mostly, and I trust us. We'll handle whatever comes next together." Her heart softened at his words. "Together," she repeated, feeling the weight of that simple word. The next few days were filled with introductions, meetings, and strategic conversations. Clara was learning quickly, absorbing details about companies, charitable foundations, and philanthropic projects Daniel was involved in. What had once seemed overwhelming was now exhilarating. She was part of something bigger than herself, and for the first time in her life, she felt fully alive. One afternoon, Daniel invited her to a private garden in their estate, a secluded spot filled with roses, lavender, and fountains tinkling in the sunlight. "I wanted to show you something," he said, taking her hand. "A place that's mine and yours now, where we can escape all the expectations." Clara looked around, amazed. "It's beautiful." Daniel smiled. "Not as beautiful as you," he said softly. She felt a blush creep up her cheeks, but smiled in return. They sat together on a stone bench, fingers intertwined, sharing stories and laughter. For hours, the world outside the garden ceased to exist. It was just them, Daniel and Clara, discovering not wealth, not status, but the quiet joy of love and companionship. Later that evening, they returned to the estate to find Victor waiting. Clara tensed, unsure what to expect. But instead of the stern, calculating cousin she feared, Victor greeted her warmly. "Clara," he said, extending his hand, "I've heard a lot about you. Daniel speaks very highly. It's a pleasure to finally meet you." Clara shook his hand, relieved at his friendliness. "The pleasure is mine." Victor glanced at Daniel, a subtle nod exchanged between them. "I know you're both strong. I want to see you succeed together. You have something rare, a partnership built on trust and love. Don't lose sight of that." Daniel's shoulders relaxed. "Thank you, Victor." Clara exhaled quietly. Whatever tension had lingered was gone, replaced by a sense of unity and understanding. The weeks that followed were filled with exciting new experiences. Clara began attending charity events, helping to organize community projects, and even working on a few business initiatives under Daniel's guidance. She discovered a confidence and voice she hadn't known she possessed. One evening, as they walked through the estate, Clara turned to Daniel. "I never imagined this life. I thought wealth and power were distant, untouchable things. But now, I see they're just another way to create, to help, to connect. And I'm grateful I get to do it with you." Daniel stopped, taking her hands. "Clara, you've changed my life. You've brought perspective, joy, and love I didn't know I needed. I promise, no matter what comes, we'll face it together." She smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. Together, she whispered. Above them, the stars sparkled, reflecting in their eyes and hearts. Every secret, every challenge, every twist had led them to this moment. The shadows of the past, hidden figures, complicated cousins, secret documents, now seemed like distant echoes compared to the strength of what they shared. As they stood hand in hand, Clara realized something important. It wasn't just the wealth, the status, or even the adventures they faced. It was the trust, the love, and the partnership they had built. That, she knew, would last a lifetime. And as their journey continued, one truth remained crystal clear. The greatest treasure of all wasn't found in gold or luxury, but in the bond they had created together, a bond that would carry them through every twist, turn, and triumph life had in store. Sparkles, thanks for watching our story. If you enjoyed this adventure, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We post daily stories full of excitement, romance, and heartwarming moments. Your support helps us continue bringing these stories to life.